there's a bunch of different people that you've collaborated with that I do want to talk about, and we'll get to them. However, one that I have not heard you talk about in depth at all, and is someone that we both cherish as a songwriter, is XTC's Andy Partridge.
Oh man.
And I got to tell you, I'm a huge XTC fan. XTC is one of my favorite bands. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, one of the best singles bands of the 80s and 90s. I mean, just,
Yeah.
the ability of, like, I mean, I could go on, but just, if anyone hasn't, check out the Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead. To me, that's one of the greatest pop songs ever written. It's amazing. The album Non Such is genius. It could go on and on, but you got to make an album with this guy. You got to make an album with Andy Partridge. And to be honest, Wings Beat Fantastic is amazing. Was blown away. There's one track on there I absolutely love called Kill Me. And it's phenomenal. It's so good. And it is, as
That
someone who's
song
a fan,
is all Andy lyrically.
is it?
There's several songs on that record where he was pretty much the sole guy in the driver's seat as far as the words, and and that was one where he just went off.
Yeah.
He was pretty. I mean, he's always eloquent, but he was impassioned.
Well, there's one, because I was going to ask, because there's one lyric in there that I thought was so genius, which is your Adam's ribs and your corporate fibs. I was just like, brilliant lyric.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's good.
What was it like to work with Andy Partridge? I am fascinated. I do want to get into this.
Oh, it was daunting because I in the 80s when they were, I mean, I didn't really find out about what they were doing until Senses working overtime. And then, I got on and started getting all their records, and then I worked backwards from there, and I was just astonished by the depth of that output and the quality of the writing and the playing and the singing and the production and the everything. And just, I grew up a Beatles fan. That was the first music I was really passionate about. So, early on, the idea of really well-written pop music with, amazing melodies and sparkling production and, sophisticated musically without being pretentious and just like really nutritious in every way, musically and lyrically. That was, there was almost nothing that could go up against XTC. They were standing alone. So, and then the more I dug into it, the more I realized that Andy Partridge was a very heavy person musically. So, when then the reason we connected was when I was out on the road with Frank Zappa, the bass player in that band, Scott Tunis, and we both were huge XTC fans. And when we played in England, Scott called Virgin Records and invited XTC to all the Frank Zappa shows in England. And and that was such a cool, smart move that I was sitting next to him in the hotel room while he's doing it. He picked up the phone, got the number from Virgin Records, and then he just called up and said, "Please invite XTC to the show." And they came. Andy and Dave Gregory came to the Birmingham show.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they were really nice guys, and I was pretty intimidated because I had tremendous admiration and respect for these guys, but they were just very sweet guys, and they invited Scott and I to hang out with them in the studio a few months later in Los Angeles when they were recording Oranges and Lemons.
Oh my God!
So Tunis and I were going to the studio while they were making that record.
What?
So that was sick. And
that's so cool.
And so I was hanging out with Dave a lot, and then later on when I was touring over in the UK with Dweezil and Amit in the band Z, I would always hang out with Dave, and then sometimes we'd go over and hang out with Andy, and so we were all just socializing, and at some point, and neither Andy nor I can remember who it was who first suggested that we write together. But at some point, it just became obvious that we should write together, and so we started making these songs. I flew over to his place for a week in 2006, and then 2 years later, another week in 2008, and we hung out in his shed in the backyard where he demos stuff, and we wrote there, and we wrote at his kitchen table, and then he had a piano in the front room, and we would write there. He had this song, "I'm Raining Here Inside,"
Yeah.
uh, and he had those lyrics already completed, and he said he had given those words. He himself was stumped for music to put to those words, and I think he said he'd given it to possibly two other songwriter friends of his to try to come up with music for it. Uh, and they none of them could crack it. And then he put the words in front of me on the piano, and it didn't take 10 seconds for, I started playing. I play those chords,
Oh.
those arpeggios on the record. I play it on guitar, but I wrote it on this piano right there.
Hmm.
And then Andy just, his eyes got wide, and then he, started just saying, "Oh, now do this," and having input in the process in real time. But looking at his words made that music just happen.
Yeah.
Like to me, his lyrics have that quality. They're incredibly smart lyrics, and ridiculously clever. Um, but they also, just as pure sound, they're beautiful, and
Hmm.
they suggest music. And also, he's really good at taking any concept or metaphor and working every possible ounce of juice out of it. It's like
Yes.
across this anteheap, scarecrow people, poor skeleton steps out. It's like a basic concept, and then you work the hell out of it, and every line is like two or three really, clever, uh, poetic, smart statements that relates to this overall theme. It's ridiculous. He's just very, very talented. So uh, collaborating with him was, in its way daunting, but he's just such a disarming and accepting person, uh, and he's very self-deprecating. I think he understands how good he is, but he's very self-deprecating about it. Because he's amazing. If you've ever seen his YouTube guitar videos, it's just like three long videos where he's got a guitar on the entire time, shredding. Uh, he's just so good. So it was an honor again, to be able to make that record with him. And what was funny is that we had those two writing sessions 2 years apart, and we had done about 8, 9 songs, and I thought we were going to maybe get together one more time and maybe write another 3 to 5 songs, and then that would be an album's worth. Uh, and then I read, and somebody sent me an email and said, "Have you seen this interview with Andy? He's complaining about you not finishing the song." So I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
And I go to the interview,
Wow.
and somebody who was interviewing Andy said, "What's going on with this? I've heard you doing a project with Mike Keneally. What's going on with that?" And he goes, "You tell me. I've been waiting for him to finish the record." And I'm like, "Really? We never had that conversation." So I wrote him and said, "Okay, let's figure out what's going on." Then I thought we were gonna, write a few more songs, and he was just like waiting for me to take the bull by the horns with the stuff we had already done, which
Hmm.
was totally cool. We just hadn't discussed it. So I said, "Okay, that's what I'm going to do." So what you hear on that album is me taking the results of those songwriting sessions into the recording studio in San Diego, where I was working all the time at that time, and basically, creating my own recordings, with Marco Miniman on drums, and me mostly on everything else, uh, and finish them, because not all the songs were completely done. Some of them
Yeah.
were even scraps of songs, and then it still wasn't a full album's worth. So I stuck in 4 more songs that I had written, by myself, but that I thought worked with the stuff that I had written with Andy.
Yeah.
I tried to choose stuff that. And what's funny about that is that like there's a song that Andy and I wrote on there called Bobo,
Yeah. It's a
and
great track.
you might somebody might if you like pointed to it and say which are the songs that Keneally wrote on his own, that might be the first song that they point to, but that was
Yeah.
actually a collaboration with Andy. So you know the the borderline blurs between what is the stuff that I wrote with him and the stuff that I wrote on my own. I think it all kind of it all sits together nicely. Um, and while I was working on the tracks, particularly the ones that I wrote with Andy, I was emailing him reference mixes the whole time, and he would send me back very detailed emails with feedback about the stuff I was sending him, and he was very uh, he always would know precisely what thing to do. Like if the thing that I was mostly intimidated about was vocals because I was singing lead on all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I have such high regard for Andy's singing, and so that was a thing where I really was trying to hone my tracks very. It's like even when he wasn't there, he was there because I could imagine him in real time
Yeah.
watching me and listening to me do these tracks. And you never want to waste somebody's time in a situation like that. You just want to do good stuff. So you just start to develop a sense for things that you think will work, things that just that you think will sound pleasing to him. And he is generally he liked everything I was sending him, but occasionally he would focus on something that I had missed, that just a different way of approaching a line that would just bring it into focus. So it was a good transatlantic collaboration that way. And then, ultimately, I felt like I was making that album for an audience of one. I just wanted Andy to like it. So when I sent him the final version and he really liked it, I was like, okay, job here is done. I was very grateful. And we have talked about writing more stuff since then, but we haven't gotten anything together yet.
So working with him, I am going to ask a few more questions because he is one of my favorites. I mean, he's a legend. Is he the kind of guy to, you said he presented lyrics to you and then you wrote music around them. Is he the kind of guy to put write lyrics first, or does he write music, or does he kind of jumble it all together? What would you say is like his process? Is it just
I
figure
think
it out
that
till it's done?
he's um well, the way that music conveys concrete things to him, and that it's synesthesia is the thing he's got, where he, the sounds can convey very specific, uh, concrete ideas, and like a certain chord will convey a very specific location to him,
Mm-hmm.
and that can have an effect on a lyric that he writes. So the stuff that we were writing together, where he wasn't just presenting the words, but that we were actually writing the lyrics together, they were kind of happening at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
he would say, "Play me a chord." This is how we might start a song. He would go, "Play me a chord." I'd have an acoustic guitar on, and I would play one chord, and he would say, "That note, move it up one," and then I would do that.
Oh, wow.
And so I would play that chord, and then he'd go, "All right, what should the next chord be?" And then I try chord number two, and he either goes yes, or he thinks of a way to edit it or change it, and we literally walked through every chord of a song that way. Uh, and then
Wow.
the lyrics were pretty much the same thing, but but they would often be suggested by the sound, the atmosphere that we were creating with the sound, with the music.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he would say that, oh, maybe this particular song chord that I had just played made him start to feel wistful about having driven by an old girlfriend's house when he was a teenager. And then that leads to the song "Your House." Uh, He's just very attuned to uh, when he's writing a song, he's creating the whole thing at once, and he understands how music affects lyrics and vice versa, and it's he's got a very good, wide eye view on the whole process.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes total sense because when I think of the XTC songs, like to me, the lyrics are inseparable from the music. Like the way the music makes you feel, the lyrics are a great marriage of that. Like there's such imagery in the XTC songs. Like I brought up Peter Pumpkinhead earlier. Like that's one I can see the imagery and what he's saying and what he's playing in the celebratory but kind of craziness of the song, or senses working overtime, or any of those songs really.
Yeah.
And another thing that's always crazy is you mentioned the chord thing. I remember, I was trying to learn, what was it? I don't remember what song it was, but I tried to learn it for an open mic. There was an XTC song, and I thought it was just simple. I thought it was gonna be a simple chord progression, and then I start trying to learn the chords, and I'm like, my God, what is chords? There's
Yeah.
like altered chords and stuff, but it doesn't sound forced. You can hear some people throw in jazzy chords and rock and pop, and it sounds so forced. His do not. It's
Well,
almost like a jazz standard.
well, because he grew up listening to Charlie Parker, and he also grew up listening to Captain Beefheart. So he's got that angular thing that's
Yeah.
being imposed on this bebop vocabulary, and it's just freaking cool. It's just like, well, the way he described it at one point was that he wanted to make songs that were so good they hurt, and that's that impact that they had on me for sure when I was like a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
an older teen, whatever, hearing that stuff for the first time. Uh, it was like, ouch, I can't believe how good this is. Like around every corner, there's some new cool thing, either something harmonic in the chord structure that's amazing, or a particular inflection or twang in the melody, or some crazy guitar fill that David Gregory does right there, or
Yeah.
amazing bass run that Colin Moulding does. It's just like at every turn there's something that's delightful, uh, and it rocks at the same time, depending on the album. But like
Yeah.
Black Sea is one of the hardest rocking albums ever.
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
where that because that was Steve Lillywhite producing, Hugh Padgham engineering. They were the same guys who
Yeah. What a
did.
combo. What a combo.
Yeah, and the snare sound that they were kind of pioneering on Black Sea ended up being huge on Peter Gabriel's third record, on the that both those guys worked on, Steve Lillywhite and Hugh Padgham, with that song "Intruder," with Phil
Yes.
Collins playing that insanely loud gated snare.
Yeah.
That's like the snare sound on a lot of Black
Yeah.
Sea. Also, it's just like they were finding XTC were kind of like a proving ground. They were a laboratory for a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
which is fun.
What about mixing with him? Because that's another thing I love about the XTC records is they are so tight when it comes to mixing. Like, what kind of notes was he giving you when you were sending him the demos? And
Yeah,
mixes?
the mixes were always a thing with XTC. It was always a complex process, and it could be time consuming. That's why it's so good, because they were really dedicated to putting out a quality product every time. They didn't want to put out something that sounded dashed off at
Yeah.
all. So they, yeah, he would give me. Yeah, I would say he was giving me more performance notes in general than mix notes, but he definitely had ideas about vocal compression and ways of dealing with the EQ on bass or on drums. And especially once we got Marco Miniman playing drums on the thing, it just all the sounds we were getting were working. So the stuff. And also Mike Harris was the engineer on that album. He was a guy that I was working with a lot, like probably 5, 6, 7 albums in a row with Mike, and he just makes things sound so great. so combine getting good sounds at the source and then his ability to mix them, and Marco's drum tracks just sparkling, and everything just kind of fell together. So I don't think there would have been too much for Andy not to dig as far as the mix was concerned, because we were trying to do good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, both Andy and Marco are people I definitely want to have on the podcast at some point. I
Oh man,
definitely would
yeah.
love to. Yeah, and that'd be awesome. We'll get there someday.